Stories in Stone, Luna's Royal Guard. By T.D.R. Gemstone in the Rough. Stories in Stone, Luna's Royal Guard. By T.D.R. Gemstone in the Rough. Honestly, Twilight, you're making a far bigger deal of this than you should be. Really, Spike? So I don't have to worry about you trying to restyle my mane while I'm asleep? With how your mane looks when you wake up, if I did, it would be an improvement. I can't help having a fun cold reaction when my two favorite ponies suddenly look so much alike. Sure, I'm telling you there were little hearts and everything. Fine. You'll let this go, Twilight, and I'll drop the whole smarty pants thing. That sounds like a deal. She offers a hoof to the dragon, who takes it, shaking it. Alright then, so what's the plan for the rest of the day then, Spike? I don't know about you, but I plan to head over to Sugar Cube Corner and try and finish that game. Pinky was gonna leave it here, but you practically threw the lot of us out. Spike, neither one of you slept. And neither did I for the 2 days. Pinky was fine, but you were seeing humans everywhere. Yeah, well, I will admit that might have been a bit much, but you did not help. You managed something like a dragon shout to get us to stop. It was Royal Canterlot's speech, actually. I learned how from Princess Luna. I'm just glad it worked. Too much of that plate system's going to melt your brain. You're one to talk about obsessions rotting your brain. That sword you've been so focused on for weeks now cannot be healthy either. Yes, but the sword's real history, not something based off a Trojan novel. Equestria's been at peace for nearly 1,000 years, the only place most ponies even have seen something that isn't a game or a novel. All the more reason to study it. To find out the truth of things. If you say so anyway, I'll try to be back for our dinner, or sooner if Pinky did get grounded by Mrs. Cake. Both of you have caused some trouble lately. I wonder what's gotten into her. All those riots on Nightmare Night, and then you trying to start one today. I wasn't trying to start a riot, I was just being honest and forgot how easily some ponies are spooked. You're right on that, and I thought Fluttershy was bad. I might as well keep up the studies now that everything has calmed down. I'll see you later then, Spike. Right, see ya, Twilight. As the little dragon left, she started cleaning up a bit, pulling the book from the stand and placing it back on her shelf. It had been only partially useful in dealing with the cutie pox. She really should get her book, Supernaturals, back from Fluttershy. Zakara had pointed out the cutie pox cure was in there along with the poison joke cure. She really needed to go back over that book. She had regretted twice now not taking the time to read it thoroughly. Pulling the box with the sword out from under the table, she went about setting everything up to begin studying again. She figured while everyone else was calming down and the Cuttymark Crusaders were off trying something at Sweet Apple Acres, she would have a bit of time not to be bothered. Besides, there were far more questions now than before, even if she had her notes straight. She cast the spell, the world around her fading. Line of dashes. 3 years, well, just over 3 years, had passed since he finished his basic guard training and been sent to the Western Front. In that time he had gone from a barely noteworthy unicorn guards pony with no magical talent to speak of, to a major in a personal guard unit of Princess Luna. Granted, he still had no skill with magic to speak of, but he had gotten good at the little bit he did know. The word of his killing the warlord had spread across Equestria like wildfire, true or not. The news media and bards placed him as the hero no matter what he tried to say otherwise. Suddenly every pony in Equestria knew his name. Nobles invited him to parties. Higher-ranking officers actually took into account things he said. Ponies he had not seen in years suddenly wanted to be all buddy-buddy again. Including, and unfortunately, a particular former mare friend. She had come up to him and nearly immediately tried doing her best to be as sweet, kind and loving as she was when they first met. The nobles and news around him were suddenly quite interested in the mare, asking Gerard the relation. "She's an evil hag who nearly ruined my life once and is evidently attempting to do so again. Sylphie, buck off and die somewhere." The reaction of those around him as well as the mare was one of surprise to say the least. He was already annoyed at all the attention, but he had been as polite and understanding as he could to every pony with anything that was asked of him. Sylphie's sudden appearance and evident change of heart had simply set him off. He walked off, leaving the mare standing there alone in shock, though a few reporters stayed behind with questions for her regardless. He was quite sure this would be the end of any glimmer of chance he might have had with her. Though with how she had treated him before trying to run off with Reed, he did not really care. He could have been nicer, but he had not felt like that, and the dark little pony in his head was quite thrilled with the idea that she might suffer a bit. The Major, now known by his actual name Sunbeam, had retired as he planned along with Azalea, the Pegasus spotter that had been watching over the battlefield in their area. The grounded Pegasus had invited Gerard to their wedding along with evidently every pony in the 42nd. He did not quite wish to go with the news media and nobles hounding him as they were, but he had no plans to miss his former teacher's wedding. He was questioned a few times if he agreed with the two cold cuddlers getting married, restraining himself from belting the reporter for this slang insult. He had simply stated that he had no issue with any ponies being in love regardless of gender. They did indeed follow him to the wedding and harassed him quite a bit before and after, but at the ceremony, at least during, they shut up and stayed away. It might very well have been that the entirety of the 42nd was in attendance, and not a single one of them was willing to put up with anyone having a problem with the wedding. Even the usual anti-gay protesters were nowhere to be found, an odd thing considering how publicized the wedding was. The whole battalion sat or stood, watching the two stallions, both decked out in overly fancy wedding gowns, exchange vows. Then, in true Major fashion, after the kiss, they threw the preacher into the punch bowl and started a food fight with the entire battalion with the reception dinner and giant wedding cake. The whole concept was rather sweet if messy. If two ponies of war could find love on the battlefield, then any pony could. Velkern, or as was now the proper way to call her, Queen Velkern, was a different matter. With the warlord dead, the lands he controlled went to his only surviving relative, his half-sister Velkern. How in the world that worked he had no idea. Why a country that had for so long been ruled by strength and power suddenly switched over to a matriarchy with just the death of one cruel ruler made no sense to him. Gerard suspected that the ambassadors and Princess Celestia had managed to somehow make this so. Princess Luna, however, spent a good bit of time in Zebra Lands helping the new queen get settled in. Reed spent a good bit of time there tracking down the reluctant queen to get her to actually hold court. The sun goddess finally stepped in as Princess Luna was getting frustrated with trying to get Velkern to stay on the throne. Her last attempt had a large area of the forest cleared by equestrian engineers and a modern hospital built. It was currently staffed by ponies, but had started training any zebra who wished to learn. The classes were filled quickly, but Velkern spent more time there correcting the doctor ponies than she did holding court. Much to every pony's frustration, going so far as to claim that the teachers were incompetent or were taking the hard way to do things. Princess Celestia managed to convince the new queen to do her best to get the country in order before holding an election to let someone else take over. But the primary condition was the country needed to be back on its hooves, and she needed to work to put it there. Princess Celestia offered what aid she could, leaving Reed as a liaison between the queen and the princesses in case anything else was needed. Once she finally accepted it, she renamed the warlord's stronghold to Asclepius. She also made sure the crypts below the stronghold were properly cared for and resealed from both ends. She was still more often found in the hospital and school just outside the city. Gerard had yet to get a straight answer from him. He refused to answer why he gave up the role of hero. It likely would have set him for life in the mayor's department. Gerard himself had received quite a few invitations, though most were obviously only interested in him due to his fame. Reed was stuck in Asclepius most of the time and only came back to Canterlot when the queen did. Gerard was more than happy to sneak off and have a drink with his friend even if nothing he asked was answered. Still he tried. "So still not going to tell me why you were there?" Reed takes a sip of his drink, eyes wandering, watching a few fillies pass by. The tavern was by no means busy, and it was in one of the less popular sections of town as well, making it a very good spot not to be noticed. Reed had complained there were not enough fillies here to keep his attention, but he agreed not being bothered outweighed that. "Maybe one day, but that's not today. Tomorrow's not looking so good for the answer either." "All right, so then how about why you pinned it on me? What, not happy with the fame?" Okay, cut out the death glare. "I suppose I did not think too far ahead how ponies would react. For you, thinking itself seems a stretch sometimes. I am wounded, my friend." "Well, not as much as you have been, obviously. Seriously, your cutie mark should have been a band-aid. I've not gotten hurt that much. There's likely some pony out there who has been wounded far more often than me." Line of equals signs. Another place, in another time, a young pony named Lil Pip sneezed hard. Line of equals signs. "Well, considering I won't always be around to protect you, I figured some public exposure would keep you in the limelight, perhaps even safe for a while. PFFT, I'm a caged bird at the moment. The nobles barely let me piss by myself for fear I might tarnish their built-up image of a war hero. I'm more an icon for ponies to rally around than someone who did something. I am not really comfortable with lying either. It's not Elijah, your blade took the head of the warlord. No one ever asks if you were the one holding it. By now it's gone so far that even if you said you didn't do it, no one would believe you. I know they have overdone it a bit, but look at this way: Equestria has been at war for years. We got out of the Dragon War only to begin the War of the North with the Griffons. That barely ends, and there's the Bonehound conflict, and then before that even ends we start a counter-invasion into the Zebralands. Sure, the last two of those only lasted maybe 3 years, but still the public's tired of war, tired of conflict. You and Starfall were put on pedestals for a reason. Both of you are set as a single pony ending a conflict with a great deal more speed than any other battle we have had. The ponies of Equestria deserve a bit of peace, don't you think? The fact that you two are heralded for the rapid conclusions of these battles should make you feel at least a bit proud of yourself. I suppose you are right, though hard to think of you as being generous enough to give up the chance to be a hero, like you should have been. What, and go through the same nonsense you are. PFFT, forget that. Besides, your story will look better in the history books. Daring hero storms the keep of the enemy with a handful of solders and manages to succeed where countless other better armed forces failed. Family with a history of conflict raises Equestria's next great hero. Seriously, we have that or random tail chaser ambassador somehow manages not to screw something up. Yours sounds better. Yes, the whole thing reeks of an action novel right down to the secret queen helping out. Another reason you're the hero in this: she knows you. She was willing to come back into that place after she fled to help you. You do tend to inspire ponies to go do stupid things sometimes. Likely, she felt sorry for me and all the others that were suffering for this battle and wanted to see someone end it. That's it exactly, to be honest. Every pony's sick of war. More than a few are blaming Princess Luna and Celestia for getting them into these conflicts. Flower fools, bah, they cannot even see that Equestria has not started a single battle without being struck first. I would not let your guard down too much, Jer. You are still a member of the 42nd, a high-ranking one now too. Still wondering about that? I jumped from enlisted right over to officer, and not even a minor officer either, all without any training. Luna's Royal Guard works differently than the normal guard. Her officers are made such on merit, not time served, schooling, or who their fathers are. You can lead, you can follow, and you can fight. You've managed to pull off 3 rather impressive feats in 3 years already. You might have been overshadowed by Starfall in one of those, but the important ponies know you helped Princess Luna as well. You've managed more medals in 3 years than most guards will see their entire career. What about you? Manage any medals? And you can cut the simple ambassador stuff. I am not buying that. A few. They keep them in a basement somewhere in Canterlot. If I feel like going to look at them, I've got to sign a few waivers. What? Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Let's just say the right people like what I do. I can't stay too long though. I met a pretty filly over in the East End who would love me to do a painting of her. You're still using the painting line? Your artwork sucks, you know that, right? I am offended, but at least I can manage better than the stick figures you do. I go with what works. Though as I said, Jer, don't get too complacent here. Rumor mill is that something's going on in the East. The Darklands? Lovely. What do you know, Reet? Not much, just the rumors. A couple of settlements have been attacked outside the wall. A couple people claim they have seen trolls, one or two claim giants as well. Discordian monsters gathering. Do know, might just be some raiding. Monsters like that have never really gathered in groups before without someone like Discord controlling them. You know, the princesses both have a standing destroy on sight, with creatures Discord created. Nothing good ever comes from them. They cannot be tamed, reasoned with, or contained, only destroyed. I know the legend's same as every other cult ever raised. And I have a bit of an advantage with that one class on them in basic. Luna is likely going to send the regiment there after letting you all recover a bit. She probably plans to send a small force out to meet up with the 8th Legion in that area. Scout and survey. Word is she's sending you and General Mustang to do it. 8th is a bit of bad news though, it's cleaned up a lot in the last few years, but most of the ponies who get sent there are there cause they screwed something up or their parents are rich and want their children to go somewhere safe. Probably going to have to deal with some stuck-up officer or another. On the plus side, you might be lucky too, I hear the SO is going to be setting up a show out that way soon. Thanks for the heads up on that. I wanted to see the dragon that managed to make Starfall laugh. Where is she anyway? I wanted to say hello, maybe flirt a bit. We both know that would never go anywhere 3 years, and she is still fixated on her late husband. She's one of the mares that mates for life. Reed took her vows seriously. She's in the same place she always is when she's off duty. How's Cloud Dancer doing anyway? From what Starfall said, the little filly is driving her sister crazy, trying to mimic her mom's rain boom before she can even fly. Wow, that foal is going to be a nightmare when she gets older. Daughter of a war hero and the only Pegasus known to perform that maneuver. Sounds like she is one now. True enough. Speaking of lost loves, I understand you're a bit bitter still, but you shouldn't have done what you did to Sylphie. Heard about that? The whole of Equestria heard about that. The poor mare's not likely gonna ever live it down. To be told to drop dead by the war hero in the media spotlight. I didn't think you had the level of nasty you put into that comment in you. It was like you were spitting ice. Maybe I am still bitter, but it did not help she came back only due to my new fame. The crap she pulled with me just to get to you doesn't sit well at all even after this time. Not proud of it, but it still felt damn good. You sure that was it? Right, Death Glare again. You're likely right anyway. She was always a bit flighty. You did have a massive deal about betrayal too. Still, with that sort of snap, ponies might get the wrong idea about you. That and your attendance of that wedding. Honestly, the only idea ponies should have about me is I am a member of the guard doing what's needed to keep them safe. Whatever fantasy they want to write about me for their little storybooks is all on them. Once I'm dead, I really don't care what the books will say about me. Very dark, very morbid talking like that. Gonna dye that sandy hair black. Start writing bad poetry and cutting yourself? What? Nothing nice to see you not up to date on youth culture. I'm off. See ya around, Jer. Try not to get hurt on the next assignment. I really don't need to see your name inscribed on a monument somewhere. I can say the same for you. Hey, don't worry if I die doing something, no one is ever likely to know I was even born. What the hey is supposed to mean, Reet? Reet? He shifts his gaze over the tavern and to the door, not seeing his friend anywhere. Glancing down, Reet had however left a rather sizable tip as well as paying the tab. You're only supposed to vanish like that if you don't pay the tab. See ya around, Reet. Line of equals signs. It was not long until Reet's information proved true. He was still at the height of the spotlight and had attended more formal parties and balls than he ever wanted to consider. He was however simply thrilled that he had missed the grand galloping gala for that year already. Only by a month, but not having to deal with the social event of the year was a great relief. He was brought in to speak with General Mustang, his new commanding officer, to be briefed on the assignment. If Sunbeam was an old pony, the general was positively ancient. What his coloration had been before the solid gray had settled over his entire coat and short mane was impossible to tell. The guard armor he wore left the five-pointed stars on his flank bare, letting everyone know his rank was what he was good at. Like Sunbeam, his talent for doing things his way and getting results was famous in the 42nd. Unlike Sunbeam, he did not bother with unnecessary risks, which at first seemed what he considered raw to be. So you're Caser, huh? Well, let me tell you one thing right now, you bucking media darling. None of that hero crap is gonna mean more than a load of parasprite manure under my command, you get me, Major? I am not at all happy to have you with me on this. If my last exo had not been killed in the zebra op, I would not even have to be talking to you. No offense, sir, but the sooner I get out of Canterlot and away from these ponies, the better off I will be. What, not happy in the limelight? Not liking Everfilly and Mare fawning over your every word? I'm a guard, sir, simple as that. I've been more comfortable in a ditch being bombarded than I've been in Canterlot. We'll see, Major. You know what this mission is about? Not officially, sir. Not gonna ask on that. Here's the situation. We are taking a small force of 60-odd ponies from the 42nd to the Great Wall to meet up with the 8th station there. Couple of settlements out there got hit, ponies killed, towns near destroyed. Reports say trolls, a lot of them. Trolls don't attack in large groups unless something else is guiding them. This has made the princess a bit worried, so now we get to hoof it out there to investigate and take whatever action is appropriate. This means we get to go kill stuff that needs dying, and that always tends to make my plot hole pucker with joy. The regular guard units out there are instructed to be under the command of the 42nd. Of course that means the officers out there get to raise hell. We are going to direct the entire company in searching the landscape on the side of the wall. Every inch of swamp, bog, cave, mountain, farmhouse, outhouse, barn, grain silo, and ruin out there. We will find out what has attacked the villages and we will destroy it. Now you better not turn out to be a damn one-trick pony, Major. My bet is still on you only being at the right place at the right time with that kill that made you famous. I don't claim to believe in luck, but how you managed to be in two places of great importance in your history boggles the mind and borders on the bucking divine. Orders are orders, however, and Princess Luna put you on this personally, claimed she wanted to see how you would do with a larger command than just a squad or two. It's your command, sir. I am only here to help. Damn right, it's my command. And I don't want any crazy shit you might have picked up from your predecessor to seep into that head of yours. We do this my way or else you clear? Yes, sir. Good. Go get prepped, Major. We ship out tomorrow and it's a long march. Dismissed. The general was not kidding. The march itself took about a week just to get within sight of the Great Wall. It took another 3 days to reach the keep at its base. The wall was a several hundred-mile-long towering edifice of jade, onyx and enchanted stone. It stretched skyward. The battlements and ramparts at its peak were easily as tall as 20 ponies stacked atop on another. During the Discordian War, the lands on the other side of the wall were ruled by Discord himself, and his castle still remains there somewhere in ruins. The problem was the monsters he created all retreated here along with his followers. Rather than follow the remaining enemy into their home territory, the princesses ordered the guard to hold this position, and the two of them pooled their power and dragged the great stone edifice from the very land itself to seal the chaos on the other side of it. Jagged mountain ranges scraped the skies on the other 3 sides, and with the wall sealing the only way from the Valley of Discord, most never expected to have to deal with the creatures again. To make sure of this, Princess Celestia assigned the 8th Division of the Guard to protect the wall from all threats inward and out. During the Dragon War, the wall was left mostly alone, even with the dragon's homeland being on the other side of the eastern mountain range. The dragons had suffered under Discord as well, and the wall was marked as a non-combatant during the conflict to prevent the occupants from escaping. This peace, as well as the rare and completely ineffectual attacks against the stone from the Darklands side, made this post the place most nobles and the rich wished to send their children who joined the guard. And for a while it became known to become a place to also send those guards nearing retirement or troublemakers. During the Zebra counter-strike, however, most of the guards were pulled from the wall first to serve, and new recruits were placed there. This improved the reputation, though it was still the place those of some power could be posted to earn the prestige of serving the guard without really doing anything dangerous. The mountains around the wall were rich with gems affected by the energies of chaos, though safe enough to be very useful in many applications. The mines, however, were quite hazardous between strange gases, and contained curses as well as wild spells that sometimes filled the area. There was also the threat of chaos-tainted creatures. Not everything trapped in the Darklands stayed there. Too many creatures could fly or burrow and could make their way out. Likewise, not everything tainted by chaos was evil. Most, however, caused a great many problems to ponies this close to the wall. There was also the unicorn factor to consider. More than 70% of all unicorn foals born in the last 50 years had come from parents who lived near the wall or served in the 8th. Something about the Darklands magic made it so that even 2 earth ponies might have an above-average chance of having a unicorn foal. The added danger of living this close to the wall kept most would-be parents away, however. The entire wall was the responsibility of the 8th Division, while the main command was in Canterlot proper. Most of the 8th's forces were located at varying outposts along the length of the Great Wall. In the dead center of the wall was a massive fortress built against the cold jade and onyx of the wall. Dullahan Keep, named after the first general of the Legion, who even after being beheaded in the press to push the Discordian forces back, continued to fight for several hours before finally bothering to stop and die. The keep itself was simply designed the same height as well, the wall with a massive open-air courtyard in the middle. It was more like a castle than anything else. The three wings held the stables, the mess and training, and the officers' quarters and meeting areas. The central courtyard was used for training and drills and any other events that happened. The moment General Mustang trotted through the gate, the battle was on. Not a single one of the high-ranking officers wanted anything to do with the 42nd. All of them still deferred to the current commander of the base, Colonel Claymore, before bothering with the general. This lasted until the general started to clean house, reassigning and adjusting the entire base. Those willing to follow his orders stayed, otherwise they were considered too much trouble and sent back to Canterlot to be reassigned by 8th Division Command. Somehow the colonel managed to avoid being sent away, seemingly giving in to General Mustang's orders. However, this did nothing to stop the colonel from doing his best to hinder or outright stop as many changes as he could, or from giving Gerard as hard of a time as he could. "You Major, what the buck are you doing there?" Gerard winced inwardly, hoping the reaction did not show, or at least was not noticed by the colonel. The stomping of the stallion's hooves echoed in the small map room as he stormed in. The earth pony glared over his shoulder, looking at the paperwork and routes Gerard had been working on. "Rearranging the patrol schedules as the general ordered, sir. We have been here little over a month and have made no real progress, sir." "And what in the name of Celestia's plot is this crap? You're sending out patrols into areas we do not cover, as well putting officers in patrols as well." "This is grunt work, Major. Officers do not do grunt work. Though it's not like I expect a showboat, media darling to understand a damn thing about any sort of proper way of doing things. With all due respect, sir, the patrol route is full of holes. There are more than a few areas that we should be searching that we need more horsepower for. None of the new patrol routes have weakened our defenses in any areas. With this setup we can cover twice as much ground. Like hells am I going to allow this sort of nonsense from a group of violent idiots that follow a equally violent princess? You 42 ponies have no respect for how things should be done. The fact a commoner like you made any sort of officer, much less a major, is proof enough of that. You want to do these damn patrols, Major? You take your little bunch of savages you brought with you and run them all over creation yourself. We have a wall to protect from the monsters over there. I can't have my troops tromping around the mountains looking for some imaginary band of trolls you think is attacking cities. Stupid locals are probably just seeing wolves or are too drunk and stupid to even know what they're talking about. Why don't you go back to your gilded spotlight and leave the soldiering for real stallions, Major? Now get out of my map room." Dismissed. It went on like that any time he attempted to do anything. So much so that the general had to get involved directly in more than one situation, stopping his own tasks to help out his XO. While Gerard was apologetic as he could be to the general for having to get involved, The general was strangely understanding of the effort needed to deal with the colonel. Even he could not manage to get Claymore transferred anywhere else. The colonel had his own contacts that made it so he stayed put right where he was. When another village was attacked, General Mustang sent out Gerard along with the 42nd's expert on Discordian creatures, First Sergeant Buttercup, a Pegasus mare with a lime green coat and purple mane. Her cutie mark was a strange one that set her in her military life. A cartoonish ogre with X's for eyes. She had the small force checking out everything in the town. Nearly half of the town's food supplies were stolen and everything else was either defiled or covered in troll droppings. The buildings were ripped apart and more than a few ponies were injured. There were at least 6 confirmed deaths. In one case one pony was partially eaten. Buttercup confirmed everything pointed to trolls, though she did not recognize some of the claw marks found further from the town in the search. She believed that whatever made them might have been what was directing the trolls. Colonel Claymore, however, sent his own group in with his own expert and claimed manticores were obviously the case. His small team then went about ham-hoofing all the evidence in an effort to bring it back for the colonel to check for himself. Sergeant Buttercup called it bullshit right to the face of the commander from the 8th, and would likely have been bucked down to private right there if Gerard had not interrupted and agreed with the sergeant. He might not have had this way to deal with the colonel himself, but there was no one else aside from the general at the base that was of higher rank. "This is total crap, sir. These ponies can't tell their plot holes from a mineshaft, let alone what happened here. I mean seriously, sir. They have even managed to confuse the ponies that saw the trolls into questioning what they saw." "It's fine, Sergeant. All we need to do is report what we found to General Mustang. The 8th might be idiots, but at least they are helping the ponies here rebuild what was damaged. I'll see that some excess supplies get moved here as well to help the wounded and replenish the food stores so they can get by. This place has been hit harder than the others." "Yeah. The tactics seem to have changed a bit, sir." "I'll put it all in the report, sir." The report was filed and sent back to Canterlot, but the general made note that the colonel had also sent out a letter as well, claiming the 42nd was attempting to find fault with how the 8th ran things in order to regain more popularity. The sending of Major Kaser was supposedly proof of that. How it was proof neither he nor Gerard could figure out. Perhaps the colonel was more worried about his own appearance than anything else. Reed had been right on the money once again with something. The SO was planning to make a stop at the wall on their current tour. The entire base was abuzz with the news that the SO's prime star was going to perform as well. Platinum, the young unicorn, had joined the SO not long after the beginning of Bonehound Incursion and was said to have a song voice that sounded like praise from Princess Celestia. The fact she was also thought to rival the sisters in terms of beauty did not hurt her stardom either. Accompanying her on this tour was the SO's usual group of stage crew and performers, including the Dragonling Blue Scale. If things went well, Gerard might manage to catch the show this time. The general had other ideas. "I've got another assignment for you, Major. No details aside from where you're to go and that it was a personal request for you, likely some more of that political nonsense you seem to hate. You ship out tomorrow." "Yes, sir." don't exactly sound happy to be away from this chunk of stone. I figured you would be thrilled not to have to deal with Claymore for a while. Or were you looking forward to the show? Yes, sir. Rather curious about it, honestly, sir. I have yet to actually see one, and a few friends of mine recommend it highly. I will tell you what, Major. The prep for this thing's gonna take a month minimum, plenty of time to do the hobnobbing and work out a way to get back here. You take care of this and be back by then and you won't miss a thing. I'll make sure to leave the spot open for you. I still don't think you're up to match my last XO, but it's too late to track down someone better. Dismissed, Major. Yes, sir. He was given command of a squad of 20 ponies from the 8th Division as well as Sergeant Buttercup to keep them in line. Buttercup had managed to piss off the colonel as well, and General Mustang figured sending her away for a bit would calm the annoyed officer enough for him to get some real work done. The 3-day trek took them to the city of Cincinnati and the guard base located there. The small squad was given their own small stable to reside in and then was granted leave for the rest of the day and most of tomorrow before they were to report to the briefing for the mission in the afternoon. Even after that gallop, most of the squad was eager to hit the city. Gerard agreed and set out himself to find a decent bar. He opted to spend time in the closest bar to the base. The last drink he had was with Reed months ago. He smiled a bit at that encounter. At some point he was going to need to get Reed, Starfall, and probably even Vilkern to all go out for a drink somewhere. He had only known the zebra a short time compared to the other two, but found he rather missed her company and the sing-songy speech she used. Occasionally, he caught himself doing it, though thankfully no one else noticed. Even so, this bit of rest was nice. He was recommended to this tavern by one of the local guards. The meals and drinks were cheap, tasty, and heavily portioned. He made a mental note to thank the guard next time he saw the pony. Looking down at loaf of bread and soup that was still left after his salad, he opted to just nurse his ale before he burst. At only 5 bits for all of it, he might need to come back tomorrow as well. Ah, hello, I don't suppose this seat is taken, Major? He blinked, a shiver running along his spine at the sound of the voice. It was like someone had managed to make silk and honey blend seamlessly together, then given it to a mare to use as a voice. He looked up, eyes widening at the lavender unicorn mare standing before him. She had a small smile on her lips, her face framed by her slightly curled darker purple and pink streaked mane, her amethyst eyes glimmering brightly as she looked at him. Her spiraled horn emerged from the curls of her hair, nearly matching them in coloration. He could not help his gaze run down her form, pausing briefly at the 6-pointed collection of 4 silver stars on her flank. He pulled his gaze back up, catching sight of her loosely braided tail and the silver and crystal pendant hanging about her neck as he tried to keep his eyes on her face. A tall crystal glass of wine floated beside her, bathed in a silver glow, the golden liquid within swirling lightly as her magic shifted the glass. What? Oh, no, it's not taken at all, miss. Sparkle, silver sparkle. He barely noticed he had risen from his table's bench as she slipped into the bench across from him. He closed his eyes briefly, quite aware of every pony in the bar's stares at her and rather angry looks at him. She set her glass lightly on the table, as he sinks back onto the bench, quite aware that her gaze had been focused on him, not unlike the look he had given her. He attempted to hide a bit of a blush, but did not know if he succeeded. "I have been rather eager to meet you, Major, since I heard about your achievements." He sighed lightly, expecting another offer or so from this mare as well. The little dark pony in his mind was still too busy ogling the purple pony before him to let that chain of thoughts go much further. "Please, Miss Sparkle, I am off duty, just call me Gerard. Forgive me if I seem rude, but quite a few ponies seem to want to meet me. I tend to be skeptical of random ponies' intentions after a while. Not one for the fame then? Like I keep telling ponies, I did what needed to be done when the chance showed itself. I wouldn't have even managed to pull it off if not for the information and help from the others of that assault." Humble, a bit too much to seem real, however. Almost like you don't think you deserve the recognition. You should just accept the compliments given to you. Why planning to give me more? Maybe. That depends on you really. Though I do want to clear up a few things before I find out if I am wasting my time. Just a few tasteless rumors. He grumbles lightly, knowing full well it was likely to come back to Sophie and the wedding. "I gather you know which rumors then?" "Ugh, I was waiting for those rumors to be brought up again. To be quaint, the barn door doesn't swing that way, and as for Sophie, well, that's a long and rather painful story. I won't bore you with all the details. Simply put, she was only interested in me because of what I had become, not who I was. It's the same thing, I wonder, with every mare I meet out of the blue. So tell me, Miss Sparkle, is an attractive female like you only interested in me for the publicity? A bit jaded as well as humble, I see. I have my reasons to be. Well, you needn't be too snappy. I have enough fame of my own that I want nothing to do with more. I was simply curious as if you had managed to wind up in the same boat as me is all. Not wanting the baggage that comes with being well known. I mean no offense, but I have not heard of her name being mentioned anywhere before. We tend to exist in different circles of ponies, Major. Suffice to say, if I so much as sneeze wrong in a place with the media, they are all over it. I know that feeling, so does another friend of mine. You mean Wing Commander Starfall, I assume? I do not suppose you two or anything either? No, she's a friend I went though basic with and served with, not really anything more than that. Fame is not all bad. Sometimes you do meet interesting ponies. I do agree that it's not all bad. As a side note, do you realize there is a little dragon trying to steal your drink? Silver Sparkle's eyes widen, glancing down, her magic flares suddenly lifting a little green bundle of scales from under the table. She glares at the little dragon before her. The scaled beast grunts sheepishly, purple hot spikes laying flat a moment before it grabs the drink and downs it along with the crystal glass before either of them can react. It smiles, crunching happily on the glass. Blue. Hey, if I'm gonna get in trouble for something, might as go all the way, right? Gerard smirked a bit as the two of them moved back from the table, discussing something he could barely make out. Though by the tone, Silver did not seem too thrilled with the dragonling's presence here. He wondered about that himself. Dragons were seen every so often in pony lands, but they were still considered rare, particularly in major cities. He also was curious where the little dragonling had gotten a name like Blue, considering she was green and purple. Watching the two of them bicker, he realized something was off about them both, although he could not help let his gaze travel over Silver's form. She did not have any other covering aside from her necklace, and with the way her tail was whipping, he simply closed his eyes, trying to listen without distraction to figure out what was going on in the rapid-fire discussion. It only helped a little as he could still see her firm flank with his eyes closed. "I told you to stay at home." "Yeah, right, like that's gonna happen. You get all giddy and made up to come see this pony, and I am not supposed to be interested?" "Blue, I didn't want you to be a distraction like you tend to be." "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I was supposed to be your assistant, not your burden." "I didn't mean it like that, and you know it. Stop trying to be offended by something else when you're in the wrong. I am here trying to find out if I was correct about him." "Well, has got the looks. I suppose no chance has gonna appear in playfully anytime soon, but has got that rustic solider look down. I didn't think you were into that. Better be careful though. If he's smart and can get past the fact you're flashing him you plot every time your tail whips, then he might have catch on quick." His eyes snap open at that, not able to help himself to look, but instead winds up staring into the green eyes of the dragonling sitting on the table an inch from his face. Yep, he was listening. Though this does prove he is straight. Delightful, yes, thank you for that, Blue. Do you have any other plans to embarrass me tonight, or are you winging it as usual? The green-scaled dragon smirks, stretching out like a cat on the table, claws digging into the wood as she moved back from the surprised Gerard, her wings fanning as her tail curls about her hind legs. Winging it, of course. I suppose now, before I am considered a bit of furniture and someone tries to dust me, I can ask what the hay is going on. Well, boss lady here was likely looking for a well-hung stud to take back to the home and mmmphh. Gerard leans back a bit in a little bit of fear as the purple, red-faced filly suddenly attempted to shove the entire loaf of bread left over from his meal into the little dragon's mouth. "Shut up, Blue." Nothing, it's just gotten far past her bedtime and we should get going. I suppose I will see you tomorrow, Major." "What?" the dragonling gasped, having spit out or swallowed the bread. Gasping for air and trying to get away from Silver's hoof as she tried to push something else into the fainchmois. "Ah, cough, boss lady, ya know, Silver? Oh right, I see. Well, I will see you tomorrow if you would like. I can meet you here again as well." "I would like that. You have definitely raised a good many questions I wish to ask. Bet that's not the only thing she raised, huh? Solid or cold? Eh? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more." Gah! The unicorn mare grabs the dragonling with her magic and darts out of the tavern, the little green dragon waving to him and blowing kisses as she was carried out. Gerard stares after them, then back to the mess left at his table, then back up at the mass of other patrons staring at him. He sighs, turning back to his ale. That was different. The next day brought with it much of the same thing the guard had everywhere. Hurry up and wait. The officer in charge of the briefing was late, and most of the ponies accompanying him were not too thrilled to be waiting around in the cold gray room, particularly after the night of freedom before. More than a few of them started talking about the SO show and if they would make it back in time to see Platinum. One of the Earth ponies from it seemed was a veritable wealth of knowledge about the singer, proving himself a complete fun colt bordering on stalkerish. It was interesting to listen to as he ranted, particularly with nothing else to do. Most of them, save Sergeant Buttercup, seemed to have forgotten he was even there. He did not mind so much as he was not a fan of being treated like he was going to go off on anything said. It was a bit unusual to have officers briefed at the same time as the enlisted as well, so perhaps it eased their minds a bit to have him stuck there same as they were. His annoyance was starting to grow at the waiting, having grown more accustomed to things being done promptly under General Mustang's command. The officer in charge of this finally burst in, his wings spread wide holding stacks of papers and a great many more in saddlebags on his back, and even a few in his mouth. A noble pony's son most likely, sent to officer training to earn a bit of recognition while still keeping him safe. Aside from the disheveled mess of his paperwork, his mane, coat, and hooves were immaculate, as if he had taken all the time he had been late just getting ready. His cutie mark looked like some sort of golden scepter where it stuck out from under his highly polished armor. Another pony entered and was obviously a civilian. He was a tall yellow and black maned Pegasus stallion, dressed in a suit with a briefcase for a cutie mark. He seemed somewhat disinterested in the goings-on, scanning the small group as the lieutenant dropped his papers on a table with an annoyed grunt. "What is this? Is this what counts as chain of command in the 8th? When an officer enters a room you jump to attention grunts." Sergeant Buttercup snapped back in annoyance. "While that is the case, Lieutenant, it's not done when there is a superior officer present who has already called at ease. You should be the one jumping to attention, sir." The lieutenant turned about to comment about that when he saw the rank on Gerard's harness and panicked, somehow managing to jump to attention and keep the papers balanced on his wings that he had not dropped yet. Major. Major Caser, sir, what? What are you doing here? This was supposed to be a troop briefing. At ease. This was what I was told to come to yesterday when we arrived. There was nothing said about an officer briefing. But there was not supposed to be any superior officers in this unit, just enlisted. The yellow Pegasus cut off the stammering officer with a wave of his hoof. His voice, smooth, almost snake-like in the eases, slipped from his lips. This one was a lawyer, pure and simple. "It is quite all right, Major Caser." Here was a last-moment addition to the selected team, a personal request for the best by our VIP. "Will this be a problem for either of you? I go where I am told by my unit commander. So long as the lieutenant gets on with it, there's no problem." "Of course, sir. Sorry, sir. I really do apologize, sir." "Lieutenant." Right, getting on with it, sir. This is a personal request by the SO to escort their show to Delahan Keep for the show. The recent reports of attacks in the area have worried the higher-ups of the SO, and they want added protection for the transport to the keep. While the Guard is not directly responsible for the protection of civilians, The SO contract has a clause that they can request protection or deny a show entirely. Mr. Puff, was there anything you wanted to add? Gerard raised a brow at the rapid fire, no nonsense, straight to the point, and quick speech. There might be some hope for this pony after all. Actually, Lieutenant Crystal, you just covered nearly everything I was to say. I will say that there was a great deal of talk about cancelling this show, but the entertainers decided that the show must indeed go on and managed to convince the board members otherwise. I will also say all of us at the SO thank you, soldiers, for your hard work, and we sincerely hope that you enjoy the show we will be putting on. For those of you who will be guarding the SO performers on the trip to Delahan Keep, you will be guaranteed admittance to the autograph session after the show, as well as an assurance that you will not have duty during the show so that you can watch it. On top of all that, you will be given leave for the week or so that it will take to get everything ready to travel. That is, if the Major has no problems with that. He felt the eyes on his back from all corners of the room. He flattened his ears a bit at the scrutiny. He did not even have to turn to look, to know the entire squad was trying to give him the biggest puppy dog eyes they could in an effort to sway his choice. So long as no pony does anything stupid and everyone reports back in full every day. No, I do not have a problem. The resounding cheers at that comment shook the room. Gerard smirked a bit at the response. Well, that went over well. Major, if I might have a word with you once this is over? Of course. After the others had left, the lieutenant evidently got his paperwork in order enough to outline the route to be taken. There would be a squad of pullers for the armored wagons, and the guards' ponies would keep a perimeter around that group on the way back to the wall. It was simple, less than direct route with little to no over-planning, or real strategy. There was also no stopping. It was little more than a precaution to have the guard there. With the trolls or whatever raiding for supplies, a well-guarded and fast-moving convoy was not likely to be much of a target. On top of that, it gave him nearly 2 weeks at least to figure out more about the strange unicorn mare. He made his way back to the bar again that night, taking the same table. This time, however, he left his armor back at base, though as always still wore his grandfather's blade in his harness. Silver, it seemed, had wanted to remain inconspicuous. He was all for that as well. A few hours had passed, and he was starting to believe that the dragon and the mare had been a pleasant alcohol-fueled dream. Although that did not explain the claw marks and the wooden table he sat at. He rose to head back to base just as she trotted back in. His eyes widened and a grin crossed his lips, before he sunk back down onto the bench as she approached. I was starting to believe I had just gotten more drinks than I thought last night. Missing me already? Just happy that the meeting was not only pleasant dream. You always such a suave talker? Only to the mysterious beautiful mares who show up and shove a loaf of bread down a dragon's throat. You cannot pay for that sort of entertainment. I do apologize for that. She's been like that since she hatched. So where were we anyway? Aside from the questions pertaining to my preference sexuality, we really had not gotten anywhere in our conversation. She slid onto the bench as she had the previous night, offering an image of her cutie-marked flank again. He blinked a moment, not letting his gaze linger. Her four-pointed star cutie mark was not going to give him any more information about her, aside from the curve of her flesh. She opened up a bit more this time, being a little less reserved after he waved off the apology for the dragonling. She had heard about him just like every other pony on the planet. What seemed a little different here was she was more interested in how he seemed to respond to the fame. Avoiding it outright hiding from it if he could. No flowery speeches, no playing up on what he did, or taking advantage of what he could. And the situation with Sophie seemed a bit of proof that he was not taking advantage of the more private benefit of fame either. He left her know that he rather enjoyed being a guard pony, doing what he could to make sure all Equestria was kept safe from anything threatening it. Protecting others who might not even know they needed it. And oftentimes it was better they did not. She let on that she and Blue were partners working together for a while now. So are you SO Group 2 then? My squad's escorting you all to the wall in a few weeks. Might be lucky enough to see you perform. I have been looking forward to watching your partners act since Starfall saw the last show at Camp Quartz. Huh? Oh crap, you recognized Blue. She was right, you were not looking at my flank. Just. What? I was not just looking at your flank. Might be too honest there. Both of them turn a bit red before he shakes his head. So what do you do in the show? I gather it has something to do with Blue's comedy, particularly with her calling you boss. Oh yes. That's it exactly. Hope you're not too disappointed with that? With what? The fact I am not some famous pony, like Platinum. I really had not even considered that. It has just been interesting to talk to you. You don't seem to have a problem with what I do. Why should I have a problem with what you do? Just did not want you to be disappointed is all. You're a lovely mare, and I have enjoyed being in your presence. How can that be a disappointment? She flushed deeply but seemed bothered by something and did not raise her beautiful eyes back to meet his gaze. It is getting late. Shall we meet again tomorrow, Gerard? Of course, Miss Sparkle. Hey, no fair, you got me to stop calling you Major. You need to call me Silver like I said. As you wish, Miss Silver. Okay, close enough, for now. Till tomorrow. He grinned, watching her walk out along with nearly every other stallion in the bar and a few of the females. A mare that looked that good, and seemed interested in him. He really should rethink the whole disliking fame thing he had going on. I recognize that grin, classic hate to see you go, but love watching you leave. He looked around, finally looking up, spotting a small red dragonling swinging slowly from a ceiling beam. Who are you? Oh, forgot me already? Well, I suppose yesterday I had a loaf of bread halfway down my throat. I was green too, I think. Or was it purple? The dragonling drops to the table, curling up in the middle of it, reaching over to grab the glass left by Silver and crunching happily on it, much to the annoyance of the bartender. Her scales were red with orange spikes that seemed to glow with the inner fire. Blue? Got it. And one, what, did the color slow you up a bit? Yes, considerably, since you were green and purple yesterday. What are you doing here? Miss Silver just left. Okay, green and purple, need to remember that combination, sounds really cute. Yeah, I know she's gone, that's why I'm here. Didn't want to have to choke on wheat grain again. Tasty to eat, not so tasty to try and breath. You do realize she hasn't stopped babbling about you since she first read about you. You know by now most would have considered her a stalker. Luckily she's so good looking, eh? Pity she's got to resort this old storybook crap. What are you talking about? Oh, this delightfully cliqued trick she's pulling. Right out of an old romance novel. Will the heroine find true love, or will the love she seeks forever elude her due to her fame? Will the handsome will the fairly decent-looking stallion ever figure it out? Will her partner pull out her own spines in frustration? Will that stupid Timmy kid stop falling down wells? I was sort of with you till the last part. That's the problem with comedy major, sometimes the jokes fall flat. Best chance you have of pleasing everyone is make them quick, fast, and rapid. The censors can't catch half of the dirty ones at that rate either. Okay, here's the deal. You seem a nice enough stallion, so I will put this out here easy enough. Boss lady is like a sister to me. You hurt her, I rip off your doodad and feed it to you with a side of beets. Got it? Well, that was blunt. Sometimes I need to be, 'cause subtle doesn't work. I can tell you like talking to her, and I only hope it's not just for her plot. I mean, I like a nice rear as much as the next color-changing dragon thing, but boss lady needs more than some fling after some of the crap she's dealt with. I'm not reet. Okay, now you've me saying what? Stop throwing me off. I'm supposed to be running this conversation here. A fiend of mine, he? Never mind. Just know I don't do flings. And for right now, while the two of you are enjoyable company, you have me on edge with the secrets. She does that out of necessity. Well, more like a bit of romantic nonsense. I gather you already know who I am then. Maybe a friend of mine caught your show for Camp Quartz on the Diamond Dog border. I was told you were blue, however. I am blue. Oh right, the color. That's only how I perform, otherwise I don't stay on any color as that would get dull. Blue is my name, not my coloration, most of the time. I also thought you would be a bit bigger. Bigger is never an issue, getting this small however, that took me years. Anyway, you got the warning, but for being such a good sport about it, I'll leave this hint to bug and harass you. Silver Sparkle was her first stage name. Now you might have a hint, but it's so vague you'll never get it since she only used it once. Oh, I am clever. He blinked a moment at that. Her first stage name? Yup. He smiles, the bits falling into place. So do you think she was going to tell me she's platinum anytime soon? Never gonna get. Huh? Gawk. What? How? I told you to stop surprising me. How did you figure that out? One of my squad is a massive platinum fan. He ranted trivia about her all morning while we were waiting for a briefing. When you're sitting around waiting for military progress, anything becomes interesting. It was a little bit worrying he knew her hoof size though. But your hin kinda gave it up. Creepy. Trust a die-hard fan to remember that though. Cursed fun Colts. So you figured it out, then what you gonna do about it? Better still, you're not gonna tell her I gave that hint? Nothing. And no. Oh. The little dragon's gaze lifts as Gerard stands shaking his head, a bit sandy-colored mane whipping. It's her choice if she wants to tell me or not. If you have not been paying attention, I'm not that good in dealing with females I'm interested in. At best I can speak to them like I would anyone else, provided my eyes can remain where they are supposed to. I tend to let them take lead with what they want and hope they bother to tell me. Woo, the big bad war pony's a sub. Not what I meant. All I mean is she came to me in secret. My guess is to find out more about me without having me freak out at who she was. Anyway, shouldn't you be getting back before she notes you're gone? I should be getting back to the base myself. Oh crap. Yeah, you're right. One last thing for promising not to tell her about the hint. Violets. There's a reason she chooses a purple disguise. Thank you. Have a good night, Blue. It would be better if I could find a nice male somewhere with a big... well, you know. Yes, but I will pretend I do not. For the sake of my sanity. Hey, I am not as young as I look, you know. I got needs too. Good night, Blue. The rest of the week passed much the same. Silver met him at the tavern to talk, or they went to check out the city's nightlife. More often than not they simply walked and talked. He had taken Blue's advice and brought a bouquet of violets for her. The reaction of joy and her smile was more than enough for him to consider offering a pile of gemstones to the dragon next time they met. Their conversations on the walks covered everything from politics to their past. Gerard had to wonder how much of it was true and how much was for the persona she had taken, but at times the bits that were tacked on to mask who she was were easy to tell. So, getting off the topic of my previous love life. But it's so interesting, sorta tragic too though. It does give new understanding to why you told her to go buck herself. Besides, I told you about my tragic love life. Kissing a cult you kinda liked in magic kindergarten barely counts as a tragic love life. Neither does avoiding most other contact to focus on your career. That thing you let slip about Proudmoore is more fitting. I really don't want to bring that up. The whole situation was a mistake anyway. That's fine, like I said before, but since bad subjects seem to be the topic for now, shall we switch to something else bad then? Like how you met Blue? That's a bad subject. With as much as you talk about her disasters, it sounds like it. She smiles a bit at that. With that brief smirk from her, Gerard decided to do his best to bring it out more. I took the entrance exam for Celestia's school for gifted unicorns when I was a little filly. The test to gain entry is to hatch a dragon's egg. Most of the eggs were left over from the Dragon War, captured in raids or found after key members of the opposition were killed. Celestia could not bring herself to kill the unborn, who had no say in what their parents did. She had them gathered from all over the formerly occupied territories and brought to Canterlot. It seems that dragon eggs are like rocks in that they'll last nearly forever, and will not hatch unless touched by a certain level of magic, usually dragon's breath. Finding out that the dragons would be loyal to whoever hatched them as sort of a surrogate parent, Celestia chose to use them as a test of skill for entry to a specialized school. If the unicorn could not get them to hatch, there would be no harm done to the unborn dragon either. During my test, I failed to hatch the baby dragon. The egg remained untouched no matter what I did. They had marked me as a failure when I swore I saw the egg move. My young mind put together that the shell was too strong and the baby inside needed help to get out. My mother was a vet, and I often saw her helping baby chicks and turtles out of their shells when they became stuck. When I saw the egg twitch again, I did not even hesitate, running over and smacking my hooves onto the shell as hard as I could. I was yanked away before I could hit it again, though I had managed to break a hole in the egg. A moment a little blue dragon head popped out of the shell, her eyes opening to look up at me where I floated after being grabbed. I was not accepted to the school, of course. You were supposed to hatch the dragon with magic alone, not with hooves. Princess Celestia allowed me to keep Blue anyway, and we practically grew up together. She used to make the cutest little churring sounds until she learned to talk. When that happened, she's kinda been like you saw, she rarely shuts up. The princess suggested that her mother had been the Dragon Force's Air Commander Starscream. Evidently the non-stop chatter had been a family thing. Gerard had listened, watching her as they walked. Regardless of how ill she spoke of the little dragon, she always had a smile on her face when she talked about her. Really? Starscream? My grandfather told me about her. She had a massive count of ponies killed, but she was honorable to a fault, refusing to attack civilians and not attacking anyone who was not ready for a fight. That's what I was told. She was like that until she was slain in the war. It is a little bit worrisome as well as a disturbing coincidence that my grandfather's unit was the one to finally take her down. My sword might have actually been used to do so. I rather hope Blue is not the vengeful type. I would not worry too much about that, Gerard. Blue would more likely try to eat the green gem in the hilt than bother with going after the grandson of someone who killed a mother who died nearly 100 years before she hatched. I have asked before and she simply doesn't care. A little sad, but evidently not uncommon for dragons. I guess they are left to fend for themselves after they hatch. Hey? Well, the few times I have met her she has had a rather vulgar dialect. Well, we have spent a lot of time around soldiers in the SO. She picks up anything dirty she can. Wait, you met her a few times? More than that first night? When? Oh, she did come back the next night, didn't she? Ugh, what did she even say? I am not supposed to tell you. Tell me or I will kick you. Gerard. Okay, but only because you're threatening me. Nothing of much importance aside from a rather colorful way of suggesting not to upset you. Threats now. Delightful. Finally managed meet some pony and she. Never mind. Didn't you just threaten me? Yes, well. She doesn't pick everything up from soldiers. Still curious as to why you came to me. She stopped, a bit of red touching her cheeks. He stops a few paces ahead, looking back to her. Something wrong, Silver? It has been a great week, Gerard, and we both have to head out to the wall tomorrow. I feel a little bad for hiding something from you. Oh. I don't expect to get your every secret in just a week. Yeah, well, this one's kinda big, and likely has a chance of really screwing things up on the trip. Do you mind? If I tell you that is, so long as it doesn't turn out to be that you're really a stallion, somehow related to me, or Princess Celestia in disguise playing some sort of prank. What? Wait, she really does that? I had heard she liked pranks, but wouldn't something like this be a little overboard? Well, there was one point she changed a stallion ambassador into a mare for a few days. Nothing serious happened and it was a laugh afterward, but a great embarrassment to him and his mare friend for a few days. Of course the ambassador had started that particular battle of the prank war. Seems he had changed the princess's coat shampoo with one that was used for dyeing mayonnaise. Oh, you were there for that? I remember hearing that she went around bright pink for about a week. I didn't think someone would prank the princess though. Neither did anyone else, but evidently the two had been having a prank war for a good many years. The shampoo was payback for something else, but I am not sure what. Though we are off subject now. Oh right, and no, it's none of those. Maybe it's better to just show you. She glances around, not seeing any other pony within sight of the park. Their walk having taken them off the normal path and closer to the small duck pond in the park's center. Luna's moon hovered overhead, lighting the park much more brightly than the gas lanterns along the walkways. She exhaled as he watched her horn glowing softly. The purple horn remained the same coloration, though her mane grew much longer, changing to a pure silver coloration, her purple coat darkening to a onyx black as well. The cutie mark on her flank changed from the group of 5 pointed stars to a single swirl of white forming an octave cleft musical symbol. His jaw dropped. While he had figured out who she was, to see her change, and then to see what she really looked like, brought about much the same reaction as when he first met her in disguise. The rumors of her challenging the princesses and her beauty were not an exaggeration. It was only vaguely remembering Princess Luna's graceful, if murderous dance, that kept the scale from tipping to outright beating them both. Well, that's actually the expression I expected to see. She reaches over, pushing his jaw up lightly with the hoof, closing it. The action brought to his attention how close she was to him, as well as the lightness of her touch. Can you blame me for the surprise? To find out the gorgeous mare, who seemed to like my attention, was hiding the fact she was an even more gorgeous mare, who still seems to like me for some reason. I showed up to talk to you because you seemed to be in the same situation I was in. Made famous for doing something and not really liking the things that came with that fame. It really is not the same. I was made famous for killing some pony. You are famous for bringing joy to ponies with your voice. And yet your actions have proven to be a far better thing for everyone than any song I could ever write. You ended a war, and saved countless ponies and zebras from dying because of it. All I do is sing. And how many have you inspired to take up music? How many war-weary ponies have you inspired to continue to fight, making them believe their actions can bring about a better equestria for everyone? I might have missed your previous concerts with the SO, but the troops still talk about them. They still hum them in the worst of times, to remind themselves that outside the bloodshed and battle there are still beautiful things. All I did was manage a final blow in just one conflict. Your voice has kept many more ponies from losing hope in dark times. Her jade eyes watched him, watering a little as she smiled again. A small smirk crossing his face as well at her reaction. Very pretty there, Gerard. I almost thought you might have rehearsed that one. I have, just a few times. Practice makes perfect and all. It does not mean it is any less true. Thank you for showing me your secret. So what do I do? Keep calling you Silver, or should I call you Platinum? Platinum is my real name, though wait now. You are not off the hook yet. I shared my time for yours. My what? Wait a moment, I didn't agree to share anything. She pouted a bit, that smile leaving her face again, and the puppy dog look she gave him hid him caving in instantly. All right, what do you want now? Your horrid little secret. Every pony seems to have one, so what's yours, Ger? He blinks, shivering a bit. Why was it that the shorted name his friend had called him for years sounded so intimate coming from her? Aside from the fact you seem to have found a way to get me to do what you want with a look. If you must know, I believe I am the anti-dancer. I am so horrid at it I believe time runs backwards just to stop me before I start. You cannot be that bad. I have yet to meet a stallion who was good at dancing, though. Come on, what else you have hiding? No, I am serious. I am likely the only pony alive to have tripped over his own tail when it was cut short. Okay, that might be bad. I can teach you. If you want. Might take a while though. I most certainly will not mind the extra time together. That still doesn't count. She pokes him lightly in the side as they start walking again, though they quickly stop as he nearly walks into the third tree, focusing more on her than where he was going. Fine. Dark secret. Right. I suppose the only other thing is, I'm a half-horn. Seems all there. He blinks, noting her gaze on his horn, and chuckles. Guess that sort of insult is just used in Canterlot. It means only one of my parents was a unicorn. My father was an earth pony, and due to the mixed parentage my magic is sort of limited. Oh, how limited? 2 spells, and I have not been able to learn any others, no matter what I do. Millimeters, well, that is something. I have heard the slur of half-wing, but not half-horn. Might have just been something ponies thought up to try and insult me. Well, Canterlot is full of nobles. I have found them to be rather stuck up and looking for any way to make them feel better about themselves. Your parents didn't have any problems with it. Dad was never there, and my mother died when I was a foal. Never met Mom's parents. I was raised by my grandfather for the most part. And then by Rick's family after my grandfather passed and my father was killed. Wow, I'm sorry to hear that. It is a rather tragic upbringing. Not really. I was only with Red's family 2 years before we joined the Guard. I don't remember my mother, and my grandfather doted on me more than an army of grandmothers. Dad said he was the one who actually named me. I still feel bad for you even with all the time past. I would love to hear more about your grandfather. Seems you have great respect for him. How did this turn from secrets to family? I have ways of making stallions tell me everything I want to know. She bats her eyelashes, the effect making his heart feel like it skipped a beat. And that is one reason why I do hate to cut this short, but we both need to be ready to leave in the morning, and I still have to round up any of my squad still missing. Well, after the show, I would be happy to show you how to dance, though you are supposed to be my personal guard for the trip to the wall and wall there. Maybe I will have a chance to show you on the way back. We will need a guard then too. I'll look forward to it." She leans forward, planting a light kiss on his cheek, blushing deeply as she changes back into the purple mare, trotting off rapidly, leaving him standing there in a bit of shock. "See you tomorrow, Jer. Get some sleep, it's a long run. Have a good night, Platinum." The trip back to the wall took longer than expected, or at least it felt like it. Being this close to Platinum and not able to really speak to her on the run through the armored wagon made time drag. He smiled as they arrived, reporting in to General Mustang as soon as the SO ponies were secure. A great stage had been set up in the courtyard of the keep, the back of pressed against the jade stone of the Great Wall. The whole place was already being decorated by some of the stage hoof ponies from SO. The general was rather surprised at the mission he was given, though he muttered something about finding some new information on the trolls that he had to look into. The colonel was off on his own assignment as well in one of the surrounding villages, so until General Mustang returned the keep, it was Major Kaiser's base. The general and a small contingent galloped off soon after he got back. With the help of Sergeant Buttercup, he managed to keep everything running smoothly for the SO and 8th Legion troops. Moving about the courtyard, a sudden weight dropped onto his back, his ears flattened, blade drawn almost instantly as a shield raised to protect his head, his back armor likely to protect him for the second he needed to remove his attacker. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, easy there, Captain Cuddy, just me, the friendly little dragon. You should not drop in like that." He glances back, dropping the shield and slipping the blade back into its sheath. As the yellow dragonling stretches a bit, resting on his armored back. "Been told that before. So then, busy? Seems you're busy. Perfect time to bug ya, I think. So you're in charge of the place now too, nice. Not even gonna ask how you keep so up to date on information. Did you need something, Blue? I do have a bit of work to handle. Shouldn't you be assisting with the setup?" "Nah. The performers don't do much before the show. Gets a little boring, so I tend to go out and hang with some of the troops beforehand. Platinum tends to practice and sleep a lot before a show. Though she was watching you gallop the whole trip back. Sweat-soaked and well-muscled form running alongside the carriage, at ease with the movement, like a majestic beast of the wild. She's probably clipping to that." Several of the other guard had paused to watch Gerard as he passed, stumbling at the comments. The Y offered a brief salute he returned while the dragonling ranted on. "Is there a point to this? I mean, aside from tormenting me, I mean. Yeah. Boss lady is crushing on your hard, firm flank. What exactly did you do last night?" "Talked. Right. I need more to go on than that if I'm gonna plan for a wedding. We have only known each other a week, Blue. Marriage has not been considered yet." "Nope, not at all till I put that idea into your pointy little head. Now it's gonna be stuck there." "What are you talking about?" "Bucket." Bwahahahaha, mine is an evil laugh. "I might be thinking about the idea now, but I figure more time together first. I don't want to seem desperate to the most courted mare in Equestria. The media would have a field day." "Yeah, well, you better hurry. There's a massive line formed to snatch up the boss's dainty hooves in holy matrimony. She seems to know what she likes. I shall endeavor to make sure that stays me, however. That's a clever pony, go for it, sweep her off her hooves. Please don't call me that. Every time someone calls me a clever pony I wind up going through hell. So kinda like if someone says, they have a bad feeling about this? You really are trying to jinx me, Blue. I really cannot think of any other reason for this line of talk. The dragon spent most of the day riding around on his back, tossing out snide comments, insults or quips to him, or anyone else who would listen. She left him alone for a few moments here and there, to participate in an insult fight with one group of guard ponies. Usually she managed to either embarrass them or leave them stumped as how to respond. It always ended with a raucous round of laughter though, with even her target joining. Gerard often thought he had managed to get away, though she always found him again. I am amazed at how well you seem to bring smiles to ponies' faces, Blue. It's a gift. I've seen what a laugh can do. It can transform almost unbearable tears into something bearable, even hopeful. That's why I've taken more of a comedic route than what the boss does. Her singing works miracles. But laughter can do works of wonder on its own. That was deeper than anything you've said since I've met you, May. I've got many layers. Wanna take a couple licks and see how many it takes to get to the center? And back to normal just like that. The last few days before the show had more than a few issues for Gerard. There had been no word from the general, and the colonel had only returned to post the list of soldiers who had duty on the walls during the show. It was a little odd. Not only was he civil to the point of actually being polite to Gerard, he left as soon as the list was posted, mentioning his intent to return for the show. Glancing at his list, most of the ponies on the wall that night would be officers under his command. Either the general had managed to get something on him, or perhaps he really was this nice to his troops. Blue's suggestion that he finally just got laid made more sense than what Gerard had come up with. So wait, if you do marry her, and she's like a sister to me, will that make you like a brother? 'Cause I always wanted a brother to tease. Though then it will be sort of a weird incest thing, and your foals will likely be earth ponies in drab colors with long faces and no cutie marks. Or weird blue cyclops ponies. For the last time, Blue, I have made the offer to continue to try and see each other after the concert. At best an official date to go out, not an official date to get hitched. Well, it's a start. You two are too slow. Barely 2 weeks now, Blue. I have known her barely 2 weeks, and half of those were as another pony. Yeah, you're both thinking about each other when you're not together. And all you talk about is each other when I'm around. That's because you keep bringing Platinum into the conversations. I get the feeling she threw you out of her carriage because you kept bringing me up. Not always. Sometimes I just randomly say things and your mind goes to that happy place. You should see her when she's wet. She looks even better. Go walk in the rain next time. Trust me on this. Well, you were right about the flowers. Huh? See? Right there. Still thinking about her. You are having way too much fun with this, Blue. You bet your gray pelt I am. You should have seen her blush on the trip here, haha. He moved onto the stage, looking out over the gathering crowd, making sure there was nothing out of the ordinary with anything. He might be looking forward to the show, but he could not yet bring himself to relax. At the very least, the busier he kept himself, the faster the time would go. Blue had gone off to prepare as well, suggesting he come see Platinum before the show. The stage itself was little more than a large raised platform just shy of 10 apples high. Extra gear and supplies were tucked under the stage, and the colors of the equestrian princesses, white and gold, and midnight blue and silver, hung everywhere. Nearly everything was adorned with either Luna's crescent, Celestia's sun, or the logo of the SO, which was little more than the 3 letters stylized. At the back of the stage by the great wall, a curtain was drawn hiding the access to backstage. He looked over the relatively compact courtyard, knowing this place was going to be packed. He looked curious at the workers setting up something at the end of the stage, moving over to check it out, and smiled seeing the small officer box being set up. With the general on a mission, and only the suggestion that the colonel would return some time for the show, he might get the box all to himself. At only about an hour till showtime, a good many guards were milling about, waiting to rush forward to get a good spot. He trotted off, hooves thudding on the ground as he approached the performers' wagons. He nodded to a few of the performers standing around, trying to fit in a few more moments of practice. He paused at the door to her wagon, considering a moment whether he should leave her be or not before knocking lightly with the hoof. A yelp and a crash sounded from inside, the sound making him wince as the door was flung open. The half-dressed Platinum looked down at him. "Huh? Who?" "Oh, Gerard, something wrong?" "No, just came to wish you luck." "What? No, the stage term is break a leg." "Why would I want to wish that? I've broken my leg before, it's not a pleasant experience." "It's just an expression, but oh, never mind. I suppose I will have to explain stage terms another time along with the dancing. I've got a lot left to do still. Luckily I'm going to be the last performer tonight, but it's hard to follow Blue sometimes." She smiles, suddenly darting forward, kissing him briefly, her lips lingering a little more than the short peck before. Her horn brushed lightly against his, sending a visible shudder through them both. She pulls back, obviously reluctantly, looking down, laughing at the stunned expression on his face. "Boah. I figured I could steal a kiss for luck to offset everything else. Though sooner or later you might need to get used to being kissed. At least enough for coherent speech afterward. Feel free to steal as many of those as you like, if you need the luck or not. I think I will take you up on that, but for now I need to finish getting ready." "Right, I will be waiting for your singing. Front row at that." She smirks, ducking back inside as he turns, blinking at the sudden crowd of guard, performers, and stage hands that had gathered around, staring at him. "What's the matter? Never seen a major wish someone good luck before?" "Depends, sir. Which answer will get us an invite to the wedding?" "I am going to skin that dragon." The way back to the seats had more than a few of the guard laughing, offering congratulations and speculations on things best not discussed. He might have yelled at some of them, but he still felt as if he was floating from the kiss, and could not bring himself to do much more than walk to the box set aside for the officers. The courtyard was packed, The battlements had a flock of Pegasi perched on them, and the keep's tile roof, along with a few unicorns and earth ponies who had bumped a lift up to a better vantage point. Several ponies had their heads out of windows watching, and the courtyard had most of the ponies crowded around the stage, with only a few standing back where there might be a bit more breathing room. Gerard barely managed to get to the short-walled box and sink down onto the bench at the end of the stage through the throng. Finally, a perk of his position he could enjoy. There was still no sign of the Colonel, and it was not likely he was going to get past the crowd to make it to the box now. He managed a sigh, forcing himself to relax. He had left the rest of the logistics of crowd control to Sergeant Buttercup. The Pegasus was less than thrilled at having to work, but being a Pegasus, she could get around and direct traffic a little better than he could, plus she was one of the few here he trusted of any notable rank. Besides, once the show started, she was free to sit where she wanted anyway. He told her that if she could not find a seat, she could share the box unless the Colonel showed up. She declined, claiming to have Stallion somewhere holding a spot for her. With every pony settling in, the lights dimmed and a hush fell over the crowd. An older mare in a suit trotted out from the blue and white curtains, her red mane striking against her orange coloration and bright blue suit. She glanced down, nodding to Gerard in the box before looking back at the crowd, a smirk on her face. She then went on a rather short speech thanking the guard for their service and hoping that they enjoyed the show. The performers would hang around for a bit after the show, signing autographs. When the speech ended, the front of the stage exploded in a puff of multicolored smoke, signaling the first act. The first act was a group of magicians, performing sleight of hoof tricks and a few illusions such as cutting a mare in half. Most of the audience seemed more interested in the Magician's assistants than the actual show. Of course, the three of them were unicorns, so even Gerard with his limited spells was not quite impressed. That was until the end of the act. With a great flair for the dramatic, all three bowed, pulling off their fake horns with a hoof. The earth ponies tossed the horns in the air, where they turned into doves flying off as the three exploded into multicolored smoke, ending the act. It took a moment for the shock to wear off before the hoof stomps and cheers started. The next act immediately brought out a loud groan from Gerard. He ducked his head, realizing why the announcer had smiled. He had been set up, likely by Blue again. The next act was a play, one that detailed his exploits in the Zebralands. He visibly winced to the righteous laughter of the entire base. Apparently some pony had gotten the idea to do a heavily erroneous version of the events that had made him famous. With a few ponies dressed as zebras, a great deal of stock action novel dialogue, props falling all about, bad puns, jokes about various plot holes in the story, usually resulting with someone's rump getting slapped, and a musical number in the middle. He swore outright to never let Velkern see the dance number about the zebra medical code. The bit finally ended with a giant wooden zebra representing the warlord, being pushed over by the pony representing him, who took a wood saw to cut off its head. The acting was so bad it was good. The singing was so good that even with as bad as the song was, it was still funny. Embarrassment aside, the disaster was a great success. After the last line, the stallion playing him moved to the end of the stage, shouting and waving the wood saw. Some of you might believe that this story is false, but we swear to you is nothing but Celestia's honest truth. But if it is not, then I am sure this pony here will be more than happy to come up on stage and correct me." He waved the saw, pointing it directly at Gerard, who put a hoof over his face, feeling the entire keep looking at him as several spotlights focused on him. "Close enough. Excellent. You see, it happened this way. This is a lucky stallion right here. He saved Equestria and has somehow managed to woo one of the starlets in this very show. So last question for you, sir, and it's likely something every pony here has been asking themselves all day. What's that? When's the wedding? I have need of making a blue dragon skin rug first." The pony danced back to the laughter as the troupe bowed, darting off stage. Gerard wondered if he changed colors to bright red with all the catcalls and cheers he was getting. Thankfully that was short-lived, as the spotlights moved off him and lit up the sunset-tinged sky. A quintuplet of Pegasus ripped across the air overhead, trailing smoke, fire, and some sort of glowing streamers as they ripped through the sky. They flew, missing each other by inches, buzzing the crowd at high speeds, and weaving among the watchtowers. The show was quite impressive, though Gerard was a little underwhelmed. Of course, that likely was to having witnessed and been in several sonic rain booms. That set the bar for flying acts rather high. The lights went back to the stage after one last maneuver that left a glowing yellow sun fluttering in the sky before the magic sparklers faded. A little blue dragon in a top hat rested lightly on a cane in the spotlight. Looking around at the audience, she suddenly started to tap dance, spinning the cane before the hat seemed to suddenly swallow her up whole. The silk top hat landed lightly on the stage and remained still a moment. Suddenly the hat moved, bouncing crazily about the stage before finally exploding in a shower of confetti, leaving a pony-sized blue dragon with a wide grin on her face and a silver amulet of some kind about her neck. Good evening, Royal Guard. Are you enjoying yourself so far? A loud chorus of yes echoed in the courtyard as the dragon blinked, looking out at the crowd. What was that? Yeah, still can't hear you. Oh wait, hold on. Blue tilted her head to right, slapping the left side of her head, a burst of confetti shooting out of her ear before she did the same to the other side, and a couple of doves flew free. Okay, try it now. Yeah. The dragon tumbled backwards over herself before standing back up on her hind legs, tail holding her upright as she fanned her wings. Alrighty then. I am always impressed with you guard types. A buddy of mine said that you never forget your friends. He said an old squad member was in a financial bind, so he helped him. The squaddy told him he'd never forget his kindness. And he didn't. He's in a bind again and he just came looking for him. This brought a few laughs. Enough for Blue to tap the amulet. Is this thing on? Tough crowd, I suppose, but then you all have to be. I've seen some bad situations in the travels. I met one pony who got his whole left side blown off. He's alright. Honestly though, if you don't like the joke, don't worry, another one will be along soon. Traveling with the SO, I've watched you guards on leave too. You spend the first 6 days sowing your wild oats and the last day praying to Celestia for crop failure. Two stallions walk into a bar. You figure one of them would have ducked. The jokes brought more than a few laughs, as did the occasional tumble as she all but bounced around the stage, never staying in one place or talking to any one side for long. She fired them off just as fast as she could, the first joke barely ending and offering a brief pause before she was off on another one. Two dragons were eating a clown. One turns to the other and asks, "Does this taste funny to you?" A earth pony takes his dog to the vet and says, "My dog's cross-eyed. Is there anything you can do for him?" "Well," says the vet, "let's have a look at him." So he picks the dog up and examines his eyes, then checks his teeth. Finally, he says, "I'm going to have to put him down." "What? Because he's cross-eyed?" "No, because he's really heavy." Okay, our next little skit was supposed to be just 15 minutes of me throwing pies at Colonel Claymore, but since he decided not to show, we decided to do it on Equestria's second favorite pastime after making foals, baseball. She bows tumbling off stage a moment before the unicorn that had been playing Gerard walks on stage dressed in a Canterlot Royal's manager's uniform and blue, walks back in wearing a reporter outfit in a red Oz hat. "So Jake, I heard you got a job as coach for the Canterlot Royals." "Yep." "Look Jake, if you're the coach, you must know all the players." "I certainly do." "Well, you know, I've never met the ponies. So you'll have to tell me their names, and then I'll know who's playing on the team." "Oh, I'll tell you their names, but you know, it seems to me that lately they give these bull players peculiar names." "You mean funny names?" "Strange names, pet names. Like Dizzy Dean, his brother Daffy, Daffy Dean, and their cousin from Prance. Prance? Go off, eh? Go off, Dean. Anyway, let's see the list of players here. Who's on first, what's on second, I don't know is on third. That's what I want to find out. I say, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third. Are you the manager?" "Yes." "You gonna be the coach too?" "Yes." "And you don't know the fellows' names, Jake?" "Well, I should." "Well then, who's on first?" "Yes. I mean the pony's name." "Who?" "The pony on first." "Who?" "The first base pony." "Who?" "The pony playing." "Who is on first?" "I'm asking you who's on first." "That's the pony's name." "That's whose name?" "Yes." "Well, go ahead and tell me." "That's it." "That's who?" "Yes." "Look, Jake, you got a first base pony?" "Certainly." "Who's playing first?" "That's right. When you pay off the first base pony every month, who gets the money?" "Every bit of it. All I'm trying to find out is the pony's name on first base." "Who?" "The pony that gets." "That's it." "Who gets the bits?" "He does, every bit. Sometimes his wife comes down and collects it." "Whose wife?" "Yes." "What's wrong with that, Blue?" "Look, all I wanna know is when you sign up the first base pony, how does he sign his name?" "Who?" "The pony." "Who?" "How does he sign?" "That's how he signs it." "Who?" "Yes." All I'm trying to find out is what's the pony's name on first base, Jake. No. What is on second base? I'm not asking you who's on second. Who's on first? One base at a time. Well, don't change the players around. I'm not changing nobody. Take it easy, buddy. I'm only asking you, who's the pony on first base? That's right. Okay, all right. What's the pony's name on first base, Jake? No. What is on second? I'm not asking you who's on second. Who's on first? I don't know. He's on third, we're not talking about him. Now how did I get on third base? Why, you mentioned his name. If I mentioned the third base pony's name, who did I say is playing third? No. Who's playing first? What's on first? What's on second? I don't know. He's on third. There I go, back on third again. Will you just stay on third base and don't go off at Jake? Alright, what do you want to know? Now who's playing third base? Why do you insist on putting who on third base? What am I putting on third? No. What is on second? You don't want who on second? Who is on first? I don't know. Both of them suddenly yell out third base to sudden riotous laughter at the pause. Look, you gotta outfield, Jake. Sure. The left fielder's name? Why? I just thought I'd ask you. Well, I just thought I'd tell ya. Then tell me who's playing left field. Who's playing first? I'm not. Stay out of the infield. I want to know what's the pony's name in left field? No, what is on second? I'm not asking you who's on second. Who's on first? I don't know. Third base. The left fielder's name, Jake? Why? Because, oh, he's center field. Look, you got a pitcher on this team, Jake? Sure. The pitcher's name? Tomorrow. You don't want to tell me today. I'm telling you now. Then go ahead. Tomorrow. What time? What time what? What time tomorrow are you gonna tell me who's pitching? Now listen. Who is not pitching? I'll break your leg. You say who's on first. I want to know what's the pitcher's name? What's on second? I don't know. Third base. Got a catcher? Certainly. The catcher's name? Today. Today, and tomorrow's pitching. Now you've got it. All we got is a couple of days on the team. You know I'm a catcher too, Jake. So they tell me. I get behind the plate to do some fancy catching. Tomorrow's pitching on my team and a heavy hitter gets up. Now the heavy hitter bunts the ball. When he bunts the ball, me, being a good catcher, I'm gonna throw the pony out at first base. So, I pick up the ball and throw it to who? Now that's the first thing you've said right. I don't even know what I'm talking about. That's all you have to do, Blue. Is to throw the ball to first base. Yes. Now who's got it? Naturally. Look, Jake, if I throw the ball to first base, somebody's gotta get it. Now who has it? Naturally. Who? Naturally. Naturally? Naturally. So I pick up the ball and I throw it to naturally. No, you don't. You throw the ball to who? Naturally. That's different. That's what I said. You're not saying it. I throw the ball to naturally. You throw it to who? Naturally. That's it. That's what I said. You ask me. I throw the ball to who? Naturally. Now you ask me. You throw the ball to who? Naturally. That's it. Same as you. Same as you. I throw the ball to who? Whoever it is drops the ball and the pony runs to second. Who picks up the ball and throws it to what? What throws it to? I don't know. I don't know. Throws it back to tomorrow. Triple play. Another pony gets up and hits a long fly ball to because. Why? I don't know. He's on third and I don't give a darn. What? I said I don't give a darn. Oh, that's our shortstop. The thunderous applause was deafening, and the pony and dragon took a bow, announcing a small break as the stage was set up for the final act of the show, though not a single pony went anywhere. The band gathered, setting up along the back, a set of drummers, a small piano, and an earth mare with a harp. They were all rather well dressed as they tuned up and settled in. The lights all cut out save a single bright light in the middle of the stage. The crowd went silent, the sound of light hooves echoing throughout the keep as a shadowed form approached the light. Her silver hair was falling in waves down over her shoulders and back, the mare's onyx coat glittering in the light as if she was the night sky filled with stars. Her purple horn glowed lightly with a soft silver light, a necklace like blues graced her neck, amplifying her voice. Silver jewelry and gemstones dotted the gauzy gown she wore. Her forelegs were graced with green and purple gems dangling from silver threads wrapped around them. She lifts her head, amethyst eyes opening slowly, regarding Gerard in the front row with a small smile. She slowly looks up at the rest of the crowd, the air tense as she begins to sing. Line of dashes. Twilight yanked her head back, suddenly letting the image stop before the mare started her song. This was going to be a song performed live by a singer from 1,000 years ago. This was an opportunity that could not be passed up, let alone conveyed in just words on paper. She pranced around, hooves clicking on the wood floor in excitement. Spike, Spike. Take a letter. Spike. Spike? Oh crap, has still at Pinky's. She darts to her desk, grabbing a parchment and ink on her own, starting to write. Dear Princess Celestia, I have recently found in my studies a concert from a famous singer from 1,000 years ago. It is my belief that this is a grand opportunity to let ponies everywhere hear something from the past that has been lost to time. The only thing I have ever seen about the Pony Platinum in books are a few comments on how wonderful her songs were, but there were never any written down or ever recorded. Unfortunately, the most I can do is to record the song to a gemstone, but then only unicorns could hear it, and this is something that should be there for every pony. I have no idea how to make a record past that. If you know any pony I can contact to help bring this song back to life, please let me know. Your faithful student, Twilight Sparkle. The door swings open with a crash as Spike wanders in carrying a box. Hey Twilight, Mrs. Cake gave me some goodies. You want some? Spike, perfect timing. I want you to send a letter to the princess. Okay, let me just put this down, and the little dragon's flames lap over the scroll, sending it on its way. So find anything interesting this time. Yep, Gerard has met Blue and her partner from the Gifted Unicorn entrance exam. Wow, they had those 1,000 years ago too? Seems so, though Platinum and Gerard look like they might wind up being something together. There's already talk of marriage. Platinum is Blue's partner? Yep. With as bloody as some of this story has been, it's nice to see something happy happen for once. Wait, didn't you say that this Gerard pony had a thing for Princess Luna? That's what Princess Celestia told me, but there's been a lot of things that I have found that don't really match up with the story she told in the garden. I asked her about it when she showed up before, and she admitted that even she tended to forget exact details at times. That, and a great deal of what was going on she was not even present for, she was only told about later. Twilight blinks as the little dragon burps out the letter, shaking his head and catching it, pulling it open to read. My dearest Twilight, your idea to record such a singer from the past is commendable. It is always a pleasure to see you work towards expand the scope of the arts. Having been to some of Platinum's concerts myself, it would be delightful to be able to hear her voice again. I enjoy the music of today well enough, but the songs of the past had something about them. My sister likely would love to hear it as well, as she was a rather big Platinum fan back then. I know just the ponies who can help you record it from a crystal. However, if my memory is correct, you might wish to scry the concert before you record it. It may not wind up being what you think. Princess Celestia. What does she mean by that, Twilight? Twilight's ears flatten as she glances back at the blade. I don't know. I think it's a concert. How can it not be one?